So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to my lecture. My name is Ljubica. This is my first time at Digital Dragons, and let me start by saying how great it feels to be at this stage. I'm nervous, I'm anxious, but I'm great. I want to thank you all for showing up this early for my speech, especially having in mind all the massive partying that has been going on for the past few days. You are the real heroes of Digital Dragons. Kudos to you. Uh, so, uh, how many of you have been looking for a job in the past year? Do I see any hands? Awesome, cool. And also, are there any recruiters present besides my 8-bit team? No? Okay, awesome. There are some hands over there. So, we all know how stressful changing a job can be. You want to come out of it in one piece, right? And on the other hand, we also know how hard it is to find the right talent. So, a colleague of mine recently said that recruitment is a business of rejection, and it really hurt. In my speech, I will try to identify some most common bad practices out there and share my thoughts on how we can overcome them so that both parties, the candidates and people hiring talents, can be more successful in their efforts. I am Ljubica Garic. I've been working in the games industry for nearly a decade, and for the past 4 years, I have been working as a recruiter. I focus on game design, art, animation, and production roles. And for the past 2 years, I have been a part of the amazing team of ABIT as a senior recruiter. And we at ABIT, we are a recruitment service provider, and we specialize in the game dev industry. And we support studios from all over the world, whether it's an indie studio or a AAA studio. We have experience recruiting for every role under the sun and every platform as well. And it is our mission to make the industry a more inclusive, better place by challenging existing practices. So let's get started with all the red flags. First of all, let's get started with job descriptions. So the most two common red flags that I come across are cringy phrases and long list of responsibilities. So in job posts like LinkedIn or Indeed, there are a lot of elitist, cringeworthy phrases like thrives in a fast-paced environment, or proficient at multitasking, or looking for a rockstar coder with a sense of humor, or my personal favorite, we are a family. This language really indicates this like survival of the fittest mentality, and also indicates like a strong bias towards like an in-group within the company. And let me tell you, you can be sure that the company using phrases like these is chaos incarnated. Uh, Regarding the long list of responsibilities, of course, you'd want to learn as much as possible about the responsibilities the job entails. But if the list is really too long or actually merges several roles at once, it's a major red flag. So because the company might not know who they're actually looking for, or worse, they expect the new hire to juggle multiple roles at the price of the one employee. So legit job description should look something like this. They should, of course, like include many details to ensure that only the most qualified candidates apply for the role. And yeah, these details will include the exact job role, the task and responsibilities, the skills and personality traits they're looking for in this person, the challenge and goals this person will be facing, and then information about the company, the team size, projects, location, etc., the benefits that they're offering. Some companies will then like opt to share the salary range, some will not, but that's a whole different discussion, and I can probably use it for my next Digital Dragons lecture. So yeah, we can tackle that topic some other time. Bad messages. Oh, this is a fun one. So we know that the market is tight and that high quality candidates are in high demand. However, this does not mean that the companies will hire just anybody. They still want to hire the best possible job candidates out there. And usually these best candidates are already working for somebody else, somewhere else. And it is, and we as recruiters, we put our little detective glasses on. we dig for, and we identify the best candidates. We prepare our outreach message with a very good sales pitch and contact the candidates that are, comfortable sitting in their chairs. I mean, roles. So, truth bomb here, recruiters will try to contact as many people as possible for the role. I mean, after all, recruitment is is a business of numbers, and especially when you think about the fact that an average candidate response is as low as 10%. So that means that one out of every 10 people we contact will reply. So of course, recruiters would then try to cut some corners to save time and actually maximize their efforts. And it may result in messages like these: "Hi there, I have a job offer. Let's talk." So this offer actually contains zero information about the role, information about the location, the remote option, so zero location about the company. And is there anybody here who thinks that this conversation won't be a complete waste of time? Oh, okay. You're a tough crowd. So messages like these, really give the impression that the company doesn't really know what they're doing regarding their hiring efforts. And also it brings doubts into other aspects of the company's work too. So a well-crafted recruiting email should draw the potential candidate in and build their curiosity around an open role. You're trying to, as a recruiter, you're always like trying to contact a large number of people, but try to make this message more personal, to at least like to explain why you contacted this exact person for the role. It should contain a brief summary of the role, the tasks, responsibilities, the expectations, and the company information should be easy to read. Good recruiters won't bog you down in the small details that you could cover in a call or a one-on-one interview, but will offer the most relevant and most pertinent information. So, I'm really not a grammar Nazi, nor will I think that using any template but Europass will make you any less professional. But your CV and portfolio are how you represent yourself to the world. It's a thoughtfully tailored piece that shows you in the best light possible, and the information about your previous employment, your tasks, your responsibilities, and successes should be clear and easy to read. And the CV should include information that is, relevant to this job. And also, the recruiter should be able to find and open your portfolio in a jiffy. Multiple errors like in the resume can imply that the candidate lacks attention to details and tends to rush things. So, yeah, this is like a tweet that I found that really illustrates what I'm talking about. So, my advice to you is, to use a simple template. I get that there are, many artists out there, but there really is no need to use like super artsy templates, because we as recruiters, we need to be able to, scan your CV and decide if you're like a potentially good, right person for the job, like in 30 seconds or less. Always list your roles starting from the most recent ones, and also feel free to exclude the experience that is not relevant for the role that you're applying to. Also, make sure to provide links to your portfolio, and I cannot stress this enough, make sure that you hyperlink them correctly. And also check your CV for spelling errors, run it through several programs, get a fresh pair of eyes, but make sure that you don't have like any spelling or grammatical errors. Oh, surprise interviews. These are fun. So imagine having, a busy day, you're swamped with work, swamped with meetings, deadlines, and all of a sudden your phone goes off, and the person on the other side is a recruiter who wants to have a 30-minute screening interview. Or right at the top of your inbox an email inviting you for an interview about the role, but you actually never discussed your availability, and it's really at an inconvenient time. This is indeed something that happens, and it's actually in my opinion, it's a terrible practice, because employers do this because it's convenient for them. They can just pick up the phone and call or schedule a call whenever they feel like it, without actually having to worry about doing the advanced work of scheduling the call and sticking to the appointment. But as I said, I really think it's incredibly thoughtless, and you as a candidate can absolutely say that it's a bad time and ask to reschedule. If the company doesn't call you back after that, sometimes it's because they are disorganized and suck at sticking to scheduled calls, thus not prioritizing job candidates. Sometimes it's because they get too focused on other candidates and forget about you, also a red flag. Um, or simply, don't bother to circle back. So if the company is acting like this in their efforts to attract you, you know you might want to ask yourselves what behaviors are lurking down the road. And also, it's in the employer's best interest to interview candidates that are actually expecting the interview and have had the time to look over the job description, to get themselves into a quiet place where they won't be interrupted, and so forth. It is really not to their advantage to try and interview a candidate that is unprepared or distracted. Both sides should communicate clearly regarding their availability for this interview and offer several time slots, to find the ones that are most convenient for both sides. And also, to make things even easier, you can automate the process. There are several great software options that will help you manage your time and these meetings. So, a good interview is a conversation. It's almost comparable to a first date. Both sides need to be engaged. Otherwise, it will be really tricky to tell if it's a match. So it really is a huge red flag if either side can't bother to prepare for the interview, as it is a good indicator of how engaged they will be at their job and if they are actually interested in what you have to offer. Because we always want to put our best foot forward when we want to impress someone, don't we? So if the person you're talking to if the person you're talking to made zero effort in getting to know you or getting to know about the company, this will probably result in questions that are totally irrelevant, or no questions at all. And a lack of questions suggests that the person sitting across from you is actually unwilling to dig deep, to take on like these new tasks, or they may try to hide the understanding of the role in general. Also, if none of the prior materials and resources sent were not like even touched. For example, the recruiter didn't read your CV, or you didn't bother to read like any of the materials that the recruiter sent to you prior to the interview in order to prepare yourself. It will definitely make you question how much this person really wants the second date with you. Also, if one person is doing all the talking and not letting you actually showcase any of your work, or the information about the company or the information about the role, like, it really makes you wonder why you even are in this interview. Because if the person, if the person sitting across of you like didn't get like any information on, like, it makes you wonder what will they actually base their decision on, or when it comes to further steps in the process. Also, if the person is not focused on you, if they're not carefully listening to what you have to say, if their questions do not reflect the genuine interest in your work, your personal and professional growth, yeah, you should be worried. You should be worried, because people who are asking completely irrelevant questions, or who seem as if they're just like taking them off the list, or asking questions that are completely unrelated to the to the topic that you're talking about. Yeah, it really makes you wonder. Yeah, probably they do not have like a genuine interest in the role, or getting to meet you. And also, it really shows disrespect to other people's time. So do your due diligence, do your research, read a few company blog posts, and spend some time researching the role in detail. And also try to actually try the product that you would be working on, and also prepare your questions prior to the interview. As a recruiter, I always think that it's good that prior to the interview to send some relevant links, relevant materials, so that the candidate could actually get acquainted with you. And also, like, all parties in the interview should be relatable, should be fair, and should actually show interest in other person's work and personal advancement. They should be asking questions that actually give you the opportunity to show what you bring to the table. They will be curious, and also they will make sure to follow up if there's anything that they do not understand. So, another red flag that I've spotted is, the role being open for a long time, but long, caps lock, font 48, bold, long time. So if a role is advertised multiple times over a short period or a longer period, it could be a bad sign, because it could be actually a sign of employee turnover, which is the symptom of a high stress, low morale, and overall bad company culture. And if you learn that, like, previous employees didn't stay long at the company, that there's no evidence of tenure among the staff, you might have a bad boss situation or a toxic work environment. So be careful though, because this could also mean that the role has been a difficult one to fill. So if you see the role advertised for multiple times for over a long period of time, the interview is a good place to ask about this. A healthy organization should actually have no issues explaining to you why they've needed to advertise this role repeatedly, and if they cannot do this, it's not a good sign. Um, oh yeah, this is. I think that we have all been through a couple of these. So, hiring processes that actually go on for weeks or months can either be due to the indecision of the management, or can be a sign that the company is actually steeped in bureaucracy. Slow feedback or after your interactions with your prospective employer and extended time between interviews are red flags. A slow moving recruitment process can point to internal issues, like disorganization. So the company doesn't actually have a clear vision or a clear plan on their hiring needs. It can be a sign that the HR team is actually overworked, and they cannot, just like simply manage the amount of candidates that they're interviewing. And also, like, chasing someone for feedback for several weeks definitely shows a lack of investment in people and culture. So the recruiter should definitely explain and you should expect the recruiter to explain what the selection process looks like, how many rounds of interviews will be there, who will you be meeting in those interviews, what is the goal and the outcome of each interview, and how much time they usually need to make an offer. Delayed communication and waiting time are not good practices to have with candidates, and the candidate has the right to assume that this is what life in this company looks like. Like, I will be waiting for feedback always, always, always. So hence, as a candidate, you really shouldn't be afraid to ask as a recruiter, what is the reason for such a lengthy process, as it might help you actually understand the company practices, and also if it's something that you would want to pursue. Yeah, we've all been through these as well. So, there are tests that are so vague, or tests that take, like 10, 20, 30 hours of your time. And sometimes the main aim of these companies is not to check, how much of a good fit you are, but rather to check, like, if you're motivated enough to give them 10, 20, or 30 hours of your time, only to be interviewed by the company. So if there is a technical test, you should ask about the deadlines. You should ask about, whether the test is paid or not, and actually how flexible the company is about the delivery of this technical test. I really think that the best approach regarding tests is when it's actually when a company is able to cover, your technical skills and in-depth interviews, or if they can, just like look at your or if you're, sharing some links to your portfolio, either links to your portfolio or some code samples, like if they have, people who, who know what they're looking for, who know what to look for in the portfolio, that usually does the trick. And like alternatively, like short tests or assignments, of course, like you can send them, but they shouldn't, take more than a couple of hours of your time. Yeah, so also this is something that happens in interviews, so like not using real life examples. So actually the inability to use specific examples to answer technical questions or behavior questions definitely brings up concerns regarding candidates experience. It's perfectly fine not to have an example for every question, but you should have some real world working answers for at least most of them. So as a recruiter, my first impulse when a candidate cannot articulate what they did at their last job, well, I think that they might have something to hide, or that maybe they have like overinflated their skills to appear more qualified. And like in general, these types of candidates really don't inspire confidence. So definitely one of the best ways to differentiate yourself is by providing tangible evidence for your skills. Telling stories is what makes for a good interview. And these examples should include how you solved the problem, how you showed initiative, and how you increase the productivity. So make sure to offer specific examples of your accomplishments from your past jobs that actually back up your skills. So good interview will demonstrate what you're capable of and actually help your interviewer imagine what you can do at their company. Because the thinking is that if you did something great once, you can recreate that success elsewhere. So, self awareness is a key attribute in business. We all need to know how we come across, how our actions affect others, how our contributions affect the outcomes of the projects, and where our strengths and weaknesses lie. So, look out for people who say that nothing ever went wrong on any project that they have ever been involved with. Everything has been perfect. Also look out for people who spend the interview talking about themselves and taking all the credit for themselves. They are the best employee, they're the best artist, the best programmer. The company would, I don't know, would everything in the company would explode if it weren't for them. On the other hand, please be aware of people who blame all the failures on their colleagues or on their managers. They were always like overlooked for a promotion. Everything is always somebody else's fault. And finally, if the person sitting across from you is getting defensive when they do not know something, instead of just being honest and saying, I don't know, you can be sure that this person will be hard to work with, and that they are either lying about their achievements or hiding something, whether it's their insecurities or their skills. So yeah, definitely not a trait that you would want out of your team member. So self-aware people will be able to explain the key points in their career, how they contributed to the project, how and actually like explain how they realized and overcame their own shortcomings. And they will leave their ego at the door and actually tell you the part that they played in the team mistakes and how they could have performed better. Okay, so oh geez, sorry. So interview is a conversation. It is a two-way street. So as much as the candidate needs or wants the job, the company needs them equally. So if the candidate is going through rounds and rounds of technical interviews, of behavioral interviews, and doing tests in order to determine whether they are the best match for the company, well, the company should share as many details as possible about the place and the people that the candidates will actually be spending 40 hours of work with, hopefully over a longer period of time. And like, interviews are actually the opportunity to shed more light on matters that are important to the candidate for their well-being and for their future growth. So I've listed actually some of the like most common topics that you should discuss in the interview, and I will actually go through every one of those to simply share what to look out for. So regarding, geez, sorry, really sorry, I'm having some technical issues with my computer. Apologies. So regarding your company values, businesses generally have the core values that they follow, and you need to find out if these values would conflict or mesh with yours. So if the candidate is not comfortable with the company's values, it might be harder for them to succeed, and definitely much harder for them to feel happy. So if the interviewer cannot give a straight answer about what the company fosters, maybe they haven't figured it out yet, or maybe they are hiding something. But working in a culture where you belong is becoming non-negotiable, and companies that want to attract and retain talent will have to go below the surface and put values like empathy, safety, self-awareness, equity, and deep listening at the forefront of their workplace culture. Also, if you are unable to get a clear answer on what's expected from you on the job, you should be concerned about it, because the reason could be something really innocent, as the job that you're applying to is it's a relatively new role, and the company is still trying to formulate the right list of the right responsibilities and the tasks. Or it could be an indication that your future supervisor is highly disorganized. Now, if your own like supervisor doesn't know what the job entails, then how will they be able to fairly evaluate you? So if the company like is not able to provide you with such basic information, you can pretty much conclude that there are many other uncertainties that will come with the job as well. We know that starting a job is hard as it is, but starting a new job where nobody knows what you're supposed to be doing, it's a nightmare. Regarding the team structure, so you definitely should be asking questions about how big is the team that you will be joining. How many juniors, regulars, seniors, or leads are there? Who will be your direct supervisor? Who will you report to? Or how many people will actually report to you? How are the decisions being made? And, how can you actually affect these decisions? So all these are very important questions that will shed more light on how the role is aligned with your expectations, starting from task ownership to actually being able to execute all the tasks without any obstacles. And the clearer the team structure is, the easier it will be for you to get on board, do your thing, and actually progress. So the battle for talents is real, and the best companies will constantly involve and align their benefits with the ongoing circumstances. So do you remember the time when remote work, or working from home, simply sent chills down managers' spines, because they kept telling us that like the productivity will fail, creativity will suffer, that basically everything will fall apart just because we're not at the same room together. And look at where we are now, many companies are actually becoming remote first. They're offering, budgets for setting up your home office. So, in order to obtain and retain talent, companies will, should always be setting like new ways of actually supporting their employees to make their lives and to make the work easier. So if the interviewer actually fails to provide, the list of benefits that the company is offering, or if you see that the benefits are outdated and, simply set in stone, it could be actually a sign that the company is not really listening to the employees and actually not making an effort into making them stay. Now, I am not saying that a company that is not offering you your weight in gold should be overlooked, because I am aware that budgets, there are certain budgets for benefits, but the lack of certain benefits, especially at these times, such as flexible working hours or remote work, can actually be a sign of a much deeper issue regarding the organization of the company. Also, the work we do is constantly evolving and actually keeping up with the demands of new software, new market trends, or all the prodigy artists that started modeling at the age of 5. It always keeps you at the tip of your toes. So, all challenges that you face regarding your hard skills and regarding your soft skills, and actually, and all the ways how you like overcome them, will shape you into a better professional who will actually bring more value to the company. And also, it makes your chances of, getting a better job, a better paying job, much higher. So you should always ask about what the company is doing regarding learning and development of their team members. Are they paying for conferences? Are they offering, workshops? Will they be, do they offer some learning budgets? So, offering learning opportunities, and actually offering this like chance to implement this new knowledge through new challenges is actually one of the best ways of retaining talents. And you know what? Really, candidates have the right to know the answers to these questions, and the interviewer should be able to give you an honest, a detailed answer about all of the topics that I've listed. If they maybe do not know anything, they should, pardon me, they definitely should come back to you. But I definitely urge you not to move forward without getting like the answers on the matters that you actually and deeply care about. So, if you're getting any hints that the company is taking advantage of their employees, it is a big, big, big red flag. Sometimes they will sneak these hints into interview questions like, "We don't mind putting the extra hours without expecting anything. Can you handle it?" And see how they actually like phrase it as a sign that you're like a dedicated quality employee. Or if somebody says, this is a great place to work, we are like a family, and like for the fam, it's not a problem to work over the weekends because we're a family. So it's a trap. It's a trap, and it's actually one of the warning signs of a bad employer, even though it may seem like a positive thing. So also, I believe that like overtime is a getaway for crunch. The mandatory overtime, this fundamental threat that is corroding our industry. So crunching is not just working extra hard on something you care about. It's being directly or indirectly forced to work these extra hours, near a breaking point, over a longer period of time. It usually takes place at the final stages of the development process, just to make sure that like everything is as good as it can be. But this crunch culture can extend beyond just the few final weeks of development, and can go on for months, and even for years. So always aim to get a clear and to get and to give a clear, satisfying answer about how many hours are typical, Don't let the interviewer off the hook with platitudes like this is the industry standard, so or we work hard to play hard. You should always like ask and give answer to how the projects are organized, and actually how the company handles the situations that demand overtime. What are they actually doing to prevent this need of crunching. Also, are these extra hours compensated? If you're expected to always be reachable, to always be available, to always have time to work on the project, and to actually put your life aside because of the work, well, maybe the work isn't worth it in the first place. Okay, rudeness. Now this goes like for both sides. So, okay, so what is happening with my? I'm really, really, really sorry because of this. But yeah, so good manners and professional behaviors are expected out of everyone, especially at work. And rudeness is actually a pretty simple flag to spot, but it comes into several disguises though. So let's start with tardiness. So being late for the interview without prior notice is never a good sign. It's usually an indicator that an indicator that the person doesn't really care about you. And rescheduling the meeting is perfectly fine. Like, we have all been there. We have had some urgent meetings that we have to attend, or some things that simply got out of hand. But giving a prior notice actually shows respect for the other person and their time. Also, swearing in an interview doesn't mean that the candidates will be bad at their job, but what it does show, though, is simply a very poor judgment and a lack of self-awareness. Because, like, we should understand that there are many people that find swearing pretty offensive, and as a result, certain words should be off limits. If the person So imagine talking to somebody, and simply in the middle of the conversation, this person starts going through their phone, starts smoking, drinking, eating, working out, simply making you feel like you're talking to a wall and that they are ignoring your existence. Mind you, all these eating, drinking, working out during the interview are all real life examples that me and my colleagues experienced. So yeah, it's never really, really never a good sign. And regarding bad mouthing, so we have all had some negative work situations, but how you actually handle describing these negative work situations, it actually speaks volumes to the person sitting across of you. Because, like, if you badmouth your current employer, it's definitely sets a negative tone for the interview, and the people will actually associate you with this negative tone. Secondly, it's really no fun to meet a negative slash angry person. Thirdly, um, the industry is small, and actually you have no idea how the people are connected. So you could be talking poorly about somebody's friend, somebody's colleagues, or somebody's partner. And also, it really sets a list of questions in the person's mind, which could include, like, what's the other side of this story, or is this person very tough to please, or if they're bad mouthing this person today, will they be talking like this about me? So, and also, like, is this person a chronic complainer? Yeah, I was actually thinking about what to put here, like, to prevent this, but my best advice here is to run. Like, I really hate to be a black cloud here, but expect similar behaviors when it comes to your everyday work. If the recruiter if the recruiter is conducting themselves unprofessionally, well, it means that the company tolerates and accepts this type of behavior. So it's safe actually to assume that the other team members will be conducting themselves similarly. And if the candidate is behaving like this, well, it just means that the candidate is not interested in neither you nor the role, nor the company, and why would you bother to bring somebody like that to the team. So the truth is, it is really important to pay attention to every step of the process, because red flags are warning flags, because they tell you actually a lot about the company's culture and the people that you will potentially be working with. An unhealthy and a negative work environment actually leads to a never-ending stress, low morale, and unrest. And you may think that you're actually able to put up with it, but working in such an environment actually usually leaves you traumatized and doubting your capabilities. So it's always a good thing to know when to cut your losses, and when to move on. So please remember, be kind, be polite, be respectful, communicate honestly, be loud and clear about what you can give, and what you want in return, what you need in order to grow, and what you will never put up with. And no matter what, do not give up, because the right candidate or the right job is just around the corner. So yeah, I want to thank you for listening to my lecture. I really hope that I managed, to shed some light on these, like, most common red flags that you should be aware of. And yeah, I definitely would love to, definitely would love to hear some of your questions, if there are any. I believe that we have about like 5 or 6 minutes for this. No questions whatsoever. Okay, it's never a good sign. So, so yeah, and okay, yeah. Um, no, I would no, I would never. From my experience, like the more senior a person is, the more respectful they are. So I have been like, it has really been amazing for me to have, for example, to have a chance to, I don't know, like, interview a game designer from Blizzard. So this is a person who has like 30 years of experience, and I'm like shaking, like, am I gonna be like a super bad recruiter with my, bad questions, etc. And no, like, this person has, and like, this has been one of the best interviews that I have had in my entire experience. So what I want to say is that people who are acting this way, they're just like usually, like, I really don't know what motivates them, like, to spend 30 minutes of their time talking about a topic that they're like not interested in, like, uninterested totally. Maybe it's just like for the fun of it. Maybe they simply like, I don't know, like, playing with recruiters, or it's simply just like a very laid back way of testing the market, finding out like the information about like what is the salary range for this position, and then just like using that information. But like, yeah, like, but you can definitely be sure that the person who's like behaving that way, that like, isn't for real interested in what you have to offer. Because as I said, like, if you want to move forward with the process, you really will try to leave a very good impression on the person that you're talking to. And like, if you're like vaping and eating a sandwich while talking about your successes, uh yeah, it's probably not an indicator of that. You're welcome. Okay, if you do not have like any further questions still, I would like encourage you to. Okay, there is one, sorry. So actually, like, the first interview that usually the first interview that you should be having is with the HR, who should be able to explain to you like the organizational structure of the company, and actually like what your day-to-day work looks like. That also like includes the relationships that you will be having with your team, with your like yeah, with your team. So my advice here is like, just like, to ask as many questions as possible. And if you are actually like talking to a manager, It's always I would say that it's always like a good thing like to ask them about their about their like leadership styles, like about their management style. Ask them about what happens when you find out that when you see that your team member is not like is slacking or is not motivated or is facing an issue. What do you happen? How do you react when the project when you made a mistake and didn't plan the project correctly. So these answers will definitely shed some light um, more about like the this like task ownership, sense of responsibility, whether they can actually like self reflect on what they did good, what they did wrong. And you definitely should be able to hear to hear like the manager giving credit to their team, like managers who are saying, I did this, I am responsible for this, etc. Like it's yeah, you're probably dealing with an egomaniac, and I would say just like run. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so like if you are maybe like too embarrassed to raise to ask questions now, I strongly encourage you to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or to email me, or to catch me yeah, to catch me during the conference. Today we have a booth, so me and my colleagues will be more than happy to answer all of your questions regarding recruitment and our work. And again, I really want to thank you for yeah, for being here, for supporting me on my first lecture on digital dragons. And yeah, I hope you all learn something nice. Thanks.